Hello, listeners. I am your host, Jayasree, and you're listening to TALRadio, powered by Touch a Life Foundation. As a part of providing you with inspiring and informative content, today we have Sumita Vasudeva from Omni Wellness, a comprehensive online platform dedicated to promoting holistic well-being and healthy life. Without any further ado, let's welcome Sumita Vasudeva onto our show. Hello, Sumita. Welcome to TALRadio.
Oh, hi, Jayasree. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. The agenda of this interview is to introduce your online platform for health and holistic living to our listeners out there. So, we would like to delve deeper into understanding what inspired you to start omniwellness.org.
Yeah, well, the story is actually goes beyond omniwellness.org to Omni Wellness, which started as a small business back in 1998 when I was teaching yoga to a local community up in the Sacramento area in California. And And then it evolved into me also consulting Ayurveda, which I studied along the way in the year 2000. So I created a community of sorts of, people who were interested in learning more about themselves, their health. And I was chugging along until COVID happened. Once I think I had to eventually reconcile with the fact that in-person community would have to take another form, at least during those years. And so, omniwellness.org came about. And it invited members from all walks of life to join us and rediscover the same things that were being held in person. But I think this time my motivation was to make well-being more accessible and achievable through an online access, which was missing, for the prior 20 years or so. So that's the story of how we came about as an online platform, and here we are today with close to 500 members.
Absolutely wonderful. And what a journey to start with, definitely. And can you also tell us about the mission and the vision behind Omni Wellness?
Yeah, well, the vision really, I think I alluded to it in my prior answer, is that
Yeah.
I was hoping to see, and I still continue to strive to build this vision of a membership that is thriving with a sense of well-being, that is easily accessible and achievable. I guess the words here are also affordable, because when you have a large membership that's contributing, smaller amounts, it multiplies and allows for many to benefit from this um, offering. And so that was my vision, really, to translate what I was doing in person to an to a scale that will allow many more people to benefit, which, as I'm seeing, is coming through with the increase in the number of members on our platform. And as far as the mission goes, I've been very driven to inspire and sort of lead a group of members toward living their best lives. And the caveat here is with intention. When I first proposed this mission back in 2021, when we launched, the usage of the words, live your best life, were very rampant. And I found that what is unique to the way we want to offer our mission is the words with intention. And of course, we're using the tools of Vedic sciences like yoga and Ayurveda. So that does create that sense of, living your best life in a very unique way. Um, just to set ourselves apart from that hashtag live your best life. So this is what we want to create with our vision and our mission.
Wonderful. Because when you said, about the COVID scenario, that is definitely when, everybody has gone back to their roots, tried to understand what the ancestral medicine science was. And,
Yeah.
a lot of such things kept happening. And now that when you say live your best life, I really love the catch there with intention.
Mhm.
That's absolutely more important. You
Yeah.
can live your best life in multiple ways, but with intention, you are completely
Exactly. I
grounded.
think it was when I first set about voicing our mission, it was missing that catchphrase until I started looking at hashtag around live your best life. And I saw imagery that was not what I had in mind. And so
Hmm.
I knew I had to, elaborate on what I meant when I say live your best life. And so the words with intention seem to do the magic. And I'm hoping that's what, people are driven to when they join our platform.
Absolutely wonderful. And that makes very beautiful sense to say those words as well. So, moving forward, I'd like to know more about the services that you offer on your platform. So, what unique approach does Omni Wellness take towards promoting health and wellness?
Yeah, I seem to be tripping over my words here because you're um, I'm one step ahead of answering your questions. Yeah,
Yeah.
but, no, no, I would like to elaborate on this. I mentioned
Yes.
that, we use the tools of yoga and Ayurveda, which by itself is a unique methodology, to promote health and wellness, especially in this region of the United States. Though, because we are an online member platform, we have members from all over the world. Um, and in addition to the fact that I'm using these ancient Vedic sciences in combination with preventive medicine to promote well being, I think the unique feature really is the fact that there is uh, a person or a coach to help people actually manifest these changes. Because a lot of times what happens is that there is a big knowledge base out there about, what to eat, what to do, how to do it. But there is really nobody dedicated to supporting each member in their quest toward their own, lifestyle change or behavior change. And I think this is really the unique feature is that every member who joins is allowed an opportunity either through group membership or through one-on-one coaching and a support system that is not only from coach to member, but member to member. Just the way we have, orchestrated our workshops and so on, that each member is supported in their end goal for their health. So this is a very unique feature, and I can afford to do it because I'm still small. As the platform gets bigger, we will just have to hire more coaches to support our, each individual member. But based on my own research into the field of well-being on the internet, I find that there is immense knowledge but very little support for the person who's wanting to transform. And by this I mean earnest support. That there are coaches available, but not for the value that we are able to provide given the number of members that we have. So yeah, it's still a very boutique offering and still pretty unique in that respect.
Great. So, before starting my question, I said, I would like to know more about your services. So, could you please elaborate on that as well? What kind of services your platform offers?
Yeah, yeah, of course. So the way that we've tailored the knowledge of yoga and Ayurveda primarily, also interwoven is some Vedic Jyotish knowledge, which, because
Mhm.
once you step into the realm of the Vedas, there isn't any such departmental or compartmentalized way to offer this wisdom. And so there's a lot of crossover between the Vedic sciences, and the way that we deliver it is in a way that allows people to imbibe it in their everyday life. So, I've tried to make it simple and to the point for a member who happens to find us, to find a way that they can actually easily absorb this information and make it relevant to their own life. The way I do this is by promoting what is called the four pillars of health. These are nourishment, movement, um, deep rest, and connection. And these four pillars, then each of them has, modules built within them that allows each person or each member to find where they belong. And there is always, one or more of the pillars that a person, an individual might be drawn to. And then as they excel in that pillar, they move on to maybe progressing towards something else. So nourishment, for instance, will include everything in terms of nourishing our body, our mind, and so we do it through the five senses. The nourishment is, through not just through the sense of taste, which is what we understand nourishment to be, but it also encompasses sense of sight, sense of sound, sense of touch, and which one am I missing? Sense of smell. Yes, so it encompasses all the senses, and perhaps the one that I don't proclaim much because it's more an experience is the sense of the sixth sense, which is the intuitive sense that comes with the other pillars through deep rest and through connection. But that is, the offering is to help people understand and discover themselves through their senses, for which we classify it as the pillar of nourishment. With the pillar of movement, we obviously want to encourage our membership to create habits that will allow them to move in a safe and beneficial way to their own Ayurvedic constitution. So, in addition to yoga, we may recommend other types of movements that would evolve, an individual's well-being. With deep rest, we not only speak about sleep, but also creating an environment that allows people to proceed in their life with, um, a sense of stress-free pursuit, which is a paradoxical or a misnomer sort of a statement because there is, in our day-to-day life, especially here in the United States, there is a lot of, angst around just pursuing and constantly moving. So deep rest gives them certain practices that will allow them to just be more established in themselves through practicing these, ancient yogic exercises. These could involve, stretching, practice of yoga nidra. There is just so much that, there is a lot of wealth in this subject in the Vedic sciences, um, including breathing, for instance. And then finally, connection. Connection is sometimes combined with deep rest, and it can be articulated as meditation. But I do want to promote a sense of not just spiritual connection, but also social connection, which I think with COVID, there was a realization how important it is to be socially connected with human peers. And so, that module speaks to just how to feel more connected within one's own self as well as within society. So yeah, fortunately, there's such a big knowledge base. It was just a matter of tailoring it to a modern day um, society, and what my membership has articulated as their needs is what I'm delivering as my offerings.
Absolutely wonderful and very thoughtful and creative as well. It's important for us to encapsulate all the aspects of health and wellness. And I truly
Mhm.
believe you have beautifully covered everything into your services.
Thanks, Jayasree.
Great to know about that. And I believe you have certainly spoken about your initial experience of how Omni Wellness came about, but then I would also want to ask you to elaborate on what kind of challenges have you faced while building Omni Wellness, and how have you overcome them?
Wow, that's a good question because that's the one that I grapple with, when I'm administratively managing the platform. Being small enough, I obviously continue to manage the administration as well as the content. And while my heart is with the content, I have to be driven by my mind to make sure that the platform is thriving with members, which is really the way that we assess our success is through the number of members that participate in our offerings. So I guess one of the challenges upfront that I can think of is the fact that, when we first launched back in September of 21, it was after I had shared the fact that there was this new platform out there, I suddenly realized that, I needed to reach many more people outside my network to really make this the accessible vision that I wanted to create out of this platform. And so I went about, through social media challenges, informing people about our existence. But there is a lot of noise in, those channels, and it has not been easy to spread the word. And that is why I really value these opportunities to be able to speak about what we are doing. And with support from, TALRadio, it has become easier to be able to spread the word with channels like yours. Also, what I find meaningful about a conversation like the one we're having is that it is targeted to an audience that is interested in this topic, because I don't want to be spamming people whose radar is not on their health and well-being. And I find that social media channels, you never know, where your message is being received. So a targeted outreach is always much appreciated. So that's been, I think, one of the biggest challenges is to spread the word. And having said that, being a small business has not been easy with a budget that can afford a lot of advertising and so on. But one of the things that I have found and that I am beginning to work upon, which will answer your question about, how we are overcoming this challenge, is reevaluating the structure within which we are operating. And even though we remain a small business, one of the things that I have found is that in this I guess in modern day ways of working, there is a lot of awareness around a social enterprise, which is that intersection of a business that's working on a social cause. And so I am in the process of recreating omniwellness.org as a social enterprise that will allow for that will allow me to focus on working on my vision and my mission, and not to be too worried about the commercial aspects of what we do. So this is, I think, one of the ways that the tailoring the business in a model that supports a social cause will help me elevate my message, to the right audiences. So that's one of the changes that we're about to make. And I think that that's really my big challenge. There is a mini other challenge, which is about how to involve membership in or how to tailor the programs to a membership so that I'm providing something that's relevant. And toward that end, I have had a lot of participation from my members in focus groups and so on, where I've been able to evaluate if what I'm offering is meeting their needs, and if not, how we can create more relevant programming. So that's an ongoing um, challenge that I enjoy, because it involves innovating new programs, creating conversations that are meaningful for our participants. But that's the fun challenge.
I truly admire that. And thank you for accepting our invitation to be on Tal Radio. Just like you said, the motto of Tal Radio is to spread the word. of kindness and inspiration, and definitely to promote people like you who are striving and trying to thrive in small businesses, because it's extremely important that people get to know about people like you who are working relentlessly towards the health and wellness of people. So I'm really glad that we've had this opportunity to talk to each other about your platform, definitely.
Thank
And
you.
I have wonderful. I have one last question for you, Sumita.
Mhm.
Having understood your journey so far and having understood your services so far, I'd also want to ask you in detail about how do you envision Omni Wellness making a positive impact in people's lives in a long run?
Mhm. Yeah, and this question is a very I think the most important one. Thank you for saving it for the last. I do think that this is a great way to summarize perhaps our conversation so far, and it takes me back, my to my own roots. Growing up in India, I was exposed to an aspect of health and wellness that I took for granted, like everybody does in whichever country they're growing up in. But it wasn't until I was about in high school that I had a run in with a health condition. It was diagnosed as a thyroid deficiency. And so a hormonal deficiency in my thyroid gland. And so I was prescribed medication by the mainstream medicine that, I was under the care of a primary care physician and an endocrinologist, and I received medication. I took it without question. At age 16, you don't really inquire much about, you don't think too much about if there are alternatives to mainstream medicine. Um, and even though at home I had a lot of exposure to the Vedic sciences of yoga and Ayurveda through my grandparents, um, and through the culture that I was surrounded with, I did not question when I was prescribed medication, and I took it unwittingly and unsuspectingly. Um, well, 7 years into that medication, I realized that all I was doing was managing the symptoms of this thyroid deficiency. And so my parents actually started exploring alternative ways to heal. And I had been working in Europe for many years, or at least two by then. So when I came home between jobs, I was going to move to Hong Kong. My parents said, "You're not going anywhere until you have, really taken care of your own health." And so they suggested that I enroll in an Ayurvedic health program, which is called a Panchakarma treatment, where we receive healing through 5 modalities. Well, I was very suspicious about what this whole thing was going to be, and I was complaining it was my vacation, and here I was taking on a very intense 3 week regimen. It was supposed to be 4 weeks. I only lasted three, and but what I found when I went back to work, that suddenly my symptoms had not only diminished, but that I was beginning to heal, and I could see the difference in just my physical well-being at the time. And I realized that something had transformed during that treatment. So I think the curiosity grew, and I began to, when I lived in Hong Kong, I was witnessing all the people out there doing Tai Chi in the open parks. And I really admired the culture of, the Chinese people to be so rooted in their traditions, which I had missed growing up in a cosmopolitan city like Delhi. Even though I was only living in Delhi for the last 10 years or so before I had moved, and I had grown up in small towns of India. My dad was in the Indian Army, so we had moved extensively. Anyhow, when I had witnessed what I witnessed in Hong Kong was something that I think triggered this thought that when I go back to India, I'm going to explore my own roots around healing. And I did. I enrolled in a yoga teacher's training, and it awakened me to all the possibilities of the Vedic sciences. And something sparked. I think it was in my idealism. I was 25 years old, and it's a great age to be idealistic. And I just said, this is how people should be living. This is how we should be treating our bodies and our minds. And so grew this vision that I wanted to share, the Indian Vedic sciences with um, the opportunities that I was being afforded to travel, in many countries, work in many countries. So by the time I moved to the US, I came here with a mission that, this is what I'm going to share. And at the time, I didn't quite know how to do it. Of course, I started out teaching yoga, and the vision grew as I studied Ayurveda and started consulting people. And then eventually, here comes omniwellness.org after the COVID pandemic, and it allowed me to finally scale this dream. So, really, my vision, long term vision, is to make health and well being a very accessible and achievable reality. It need not be complicated. It's about this. I sometimes say that when we are born, we are missing our little manual that comes along with us, which unfortunately exists, but we just don't know about it because Ayurveda has such immense knowledge in how to live. But somehow we don't come with this manual, unlike every appliance that we buy comes with, a manual on how to operate it. So that's the manual that I would that the lifestyle, the daily routines of Ayurvedic wisdom is what I want to share, and that's my long-term vision: is that everybody is living life, in sync with nature, which is a perfect message for today since we are recording on Earth Day, and our lifestyles and the way we live with nature is what will determine not only our well-being, but the well-being of the planet. So in a very roundabout way, but I needed to explain my background to be able to explain my long-term vision and what ignites it. So I hope that answers your question.
It surely does. And I truly admire the fact that you have made it, you have summarized it in a such simple manner. You said it doesn't need to be complicated, doesn't need to be overstated. It's something which needs to be accessible and achievable, which is absolutely wonderful. That is exactly why people complicate their own lives, because they think it is
Mhm.
not accessible and achievable. So I really love the fact that you have made it that simple for people. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Sumita, for your wonderful time today, and for partnering with Tal Radio to share your message. Thank you so much.
Thanks again. Bye, Jayasree.
Awesome. It was great. All right, bye. It was great talking to you. And for all our listeners out there, so that was Sumita Vasudeva for all of you today. And you're listening to Tal Radio, powered by Touch a Life Foundation. This is your host, Jayasree, signing off for today. Stay tuned and keep learning.